Anderson. And in this heavyweight bout, the Vikings with the knockout blow.
Vikings Game Day Live is presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
Right side 3, 1, 2, 3, 5.
20, 15, 10, touchdown!
You're watching Vikings Game Day Live.
The eeriness of an empty stadium 6 hours before the SKOL chants will be reverberating through U.S. Bank Stadium as the 8-1 Minnesota Vikings host the 6-3 Dallas Cowboys in the start of a great Thanksgiving week. Kind of daily double here at home with the New England Patriots coming here on Thanksgiving night. Mark Rosen along with Don Mitchell, Ron Johnson, Pete Bursich, welcoming you to U.S. Bank Stadium on a glorious morning, late fall morning, not even winter yet, but boy, this place is going to sound a whole lot different. I'm going to ask you guys, I want you to think about this. I want you to explain to me, because I've been trying to understand all week why the Vikings are slight underdogs today. I don't understand it, but maybe you guys can shed some light with your expertise. But before we do that, we're still trying to catch our breath, like everyone else out there, from what happened last Sunday in Buffalo. And we're going to be able to take you behind the scenes. I'm not sure why or how Kevin O'Connell had a voice by the end of that overtime thriller, but let's go inside the locker room to hear what the head coach had to say.
We've won football games a lot of different ways. We keep talking about any means necessary, being at your best when it's required, but you also have to be willing to look inward sometimes when it's tough. All right, when it's really, really hard. And the only way you can persevere is by relying on the man next to you. Coaches, players, you guys just kept leaning in and leaning in. That's a very difficult place to play. I think it's been about 40-some years since this team has lost here when they were leading by 14 points at halftime. What we earned here today is the final stamp on understanding that we are one of the best teams in this league. Now we get to go prove it each and every week we get an out, but I love this team and I love getting to see you guys do your thing. Give it up for yourselves one more time.
Man, what wall do you run through after hearing that at the end of the game, Don Mitchell? You were there when you hear Coach O'Connell, what he was saying after the game, and you were witnessing the entire thing. What comes to mind?
You know, one of the best things was when we're waiting in the hallway, waiting to go into the locker room. The best thing was that I had never heard the locker room so loud from the outside. And you can just imagine what was going on. Now we know because
your mic's not working right now, so we're going to quickly get that fixed.
my voice is great.
Your voice, how about that? Pete, you were up in the booth, and we're going to relive those moments with PA in a little bit. But hearing Kevin O'Connell talk about the improbability of coming back from that deficit in Buffalo with those conditions is as a signature win beyond anyone's expectations.
It is, and I think the amazing part is this team has won 7 of its first 9 games by 1 score or less. That's only happened 4 times in the history of the NFL. It happened with the Chargers, I believe, in 06, and another team before that. Now, we have 2 this year. The Giants are in the same boat as we are. But it's that ability to, when things don't go your way, to know who's going to make a play, how are we going to figure this out, how are we going to win this game, instead of saying, hey, when things don't go your way, you're like, here we go again. We lost almost a record number of games by 1 score a year ago. These guys are believing. That can't be told. You can't shove that down a player's throat. They have to go out there, do it, and believe it. And they've been doing that, and now they believe it. And so I'm excited to see how the rest of the season unfolds.
And Ron Johnson, Justin Jefferson ends up having his gloves and his sleeves sent to Canton, Ohio already after that game. Yeah. But as a former wide receiver, both in college and in the NFL, what struck you about his performance? Because he's been getting plaudits for just about every aspect of that catch. Of course, the 4th and 18 beyond his usual stellar play.
Yeah, I'd say patience. When you think about how patient he was, because the game didn't come to him like it would like a Randy Moss, where it's like, hey, I don't care what's going on. We're throwing it to Randy as much as possible. Justin has to wait his time, and he can't become a selfish guy, and it's working for him. What you're seeing is Kirk Cousins taking the time to find him, taking the time to understand I have to go to TJ Hawkins, I'm going to have to go to Justin or Adam Thielen. But in these moments, Justin, I'm going to give you a ball that you have no chance in hell of catching. In some way, you're going to find a way to make a play for me. And that's what you're seeing. I mean, when you think about the Larry Fitzgeralds, the DeAndre Hopkins, the Jerry Rices, the Terrell Owenses, like that's what those guys brought to games. Like I remember watching T.O. against him. Like I was on the other sideline when he went to the Eagles. And even though I'm hoping we win, I'm watching T.O. like, man, this dude is like man-to-man coverage. He is the strongest, most physical receiver I've ever seen in my life. And I think now that's what you're seeing with Justin Jefferson. Players are so excited on that sideline when the defense is ranked at the bottom, 29th, but the offense is ranked at the top at 11th. It's like, hey, we don't need you to be a top 10 defense. We are a team, and that's what I think Kevin O'Connell wants everybody to understand. Like, don't point fingers. Don't say this guy can't do this. Like, we're in this together, and I think that's what's working for this team.
And Pete, getting back to the actual throw and catch by Jefferson on 4th and 18, Kirk Cousins has to have the confidence that probably didn't exist even a year ago, just to put it in a place where that guy could potentially come up with it.
Yeah, we talked about this in our season opening show is how is JJ going to get to 2,000, and I think the key is just getting them those 50-50 balls. And ironically, that pass route, that concept that they used to move the chains and get the first down in that Buffalo game was identical to the seventh heaven that we saw here when Diggs caught the touchdown pass to win the playoff game. It's just a 3-level route, short, medium, deep. You had 2 DBs deep. They were in the spots they were supposed to be. It's just you've got one man's will overcoming 2 other defensive backs. And, so again, for Cousins to have that confidence in getting the football to JJ, even when he's covered, if everything being equal, you got to get it up to him, get the ball in a place where he can catch it. He's going to come down with it like that. And so you've got to have the faith in JJ to catch that football.
And Don, yet that was only the start of the craziness and the madness that occurred late in the game and in overtime, because a lot happened around the goal line after Kirk Cousins was stopped on a quarterback sneak, which was that when they had 12 men on the field as well? I think there was a couple different situations.
That was after JJ's down at the 2-yard line in overtime.
Right. But I just can't imagine the ebb and flow of the emotions at that moment.
What I really enjoyed about it, too, was when you see Kirk Cousins bounce back from those 2 interceptions. He also tried to force it a couple of times when KJ could not get it. But what really impresses me is not only the confidence but the short memory, but they don't panic. So whether they're throwing the ball to JJ and they need it on 4th and 18, or whether they're at the goal line and it looks like, okay, it's foreseen that Josh Allen's going to win this game, they don't panic. And I think Eric Hendricks and Harrison Smith even said on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to it, that when they looked at it, Harry was just like, Kendricks just said, the ball's out. And then he just pounced on it. And I asked Harry, well, what did you do? He goes, I did nothing. I just froze because I didn't want to mess up the play. Like, I just covered my man, and then that was it. The trust that they have in each other is amazing. But, yes, it was like we were sitting up there in the press box saying, JJ made that catch, and this happened, and what? So, it ranks up there with one of the most back and forth, intense games, and we've all seen great games, but just the back and forth and them not panicking, I think that is the key. Yes, you want to have trust. Yes, you want to be good, but the not panicking and trusting your teammate to make the big play, it's kind of, if you believe in karmic forces, right, it just perpetuates it.
Pete, you're obviously up in the booth with a guy named Paul Allen who got some notoriety this week, I guess.
Yeah.
But let's go back and listen to PA's call, because for good reason there was confusion, elation, and then wonderment about how this happened. Let's listen to PA in the booth.
Do you want me to step on it like
Please.
I do in the radio?
He did not get out. That's a safety. Give it to us. Give us the safety.
Look at what's taking so long.
Oh, the ball came out.
Down.
Yes, the Vikings.
Kidding me?
The Vikings are going to win.
Well, you weren't right, Paul. They weren't necessarily going to win just yet, Pete, but I can't imagine. You said you stepped on his call up there a few times.
Well,
what was going on up there?
Well, the thing was, we didn't think he got out of the end zone.
There's LeBron James, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow, Paul Allen is a national treasure.
And, a couple things on this is as all this stuff has gone viral, there's a lot of people out there who they don't like the cheering, but they have to realize that we're not national radio. Right? This is not national radio. We don't cover both sides. We cover the Viking side, and that's kind of what we do. The calls have been just like they've been for the last 13, 14 years. It's just the games. The last 2 games that we've had against the Commanders and then last week against Buffalo, those games speak for themselves. I mean, the fact that the calls were the way they were, we just hope that it reflects and echoes just how good those games were. But we were expecting the safety, and there was no signal, and we're like, what's going on? What's going on? And when the referees went touchdown, because we couldn't see the ball come loose, that's when it was surreal. I can only imagine what it was like for Eric Kendricks to fall on that football and be at the bottom of that pile while everybody's on stack and knowing that when he stands up, it's going to be 6 points. Well, it's just an unbelievable game.
It's taken a while for the fans and the broadcasters to recover from the elation of that game. But, oh, by the way, they have another big one this afternoon against the Dallas Cowboys. Again, the Cowboys slight favorites. We'll preview that game, and also we'll hear from CJ Hamm, who's been such a stalwart in that backfield for the Minnesota Vikings. Stay with us here on Vikings Game Day Live.
Welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
Great team win once again. Similar to what I've been saying after all our other games, it took the whole team. It took every phase. It took one unit picking up another unit, making a play. It took a lot of different phases of football, and obviously, feel great about the grit, the toughness, the resiliency of the group.
Kirk Cousins, after last week's thrilling win in Buffalo, Mark Rosen along with Don Mitchell, Ron Johnson, Pete Burzich back with you at U.S. Bank as we get ready for the Vikings to host the Cowboys at 3:30 here this afternoon. Don, and the differences in people are trying to analyze Kirk Cousins all over the country right now. The clutch gene is what we're seeing from him, I think, more than anything else, because he's not afraid to throw a pick or two, not worried about the statistics as much as just the production, especially when it counts the most.
You know, when you talk about experience and being in those situations, it's key too. He has 5 game-winning drives in 8 games. That's crazy. But if you look at this, 54% of his games since 2015 have been 1-score games. So Kirk is kind of well-versed now in these high-pressure situations. But what I really enjoyed is, yes, we all know about that big catch to JJ, but what I really like is on the 2nd and 10 and 2nd and short, first of all, on 2nd and 10, he improvised to Adam Thielen. We never saw that before. And then also the full torque when he hit JJ on the sideline, not for the spectacular catch, but he crossed his body. So I don't know if he's extra dialed in or what's going on, but I really love this Kirk Cousins. That's the full torque body one. And JJ coming up with that great play. Just amazing. Now, Kirk says he's playing the exact same way, and his stats might be down because of just how things are going this year, but I just think the mentality and the never die and the trust is amazing.
And is that contagious, Ron, in the huddle?
Yeah, I mean, when you know your quarterback has confidence in what he's going to do, and he's coming in there and telling the guys what the play is going to be. But when you look at targets to Justin Jefferson, in last year this time, 79. Right now, 100. So those 21 extra targets, I mean, that's what Kevin O'Connell said. I'm going to get you Cooper Kupp type numbers. I'm going to go after that. And I think that's going to be the key with this team. And honestly, like that throw you're talking about, like that's less of a torque. And that's more of like, I see somebody coming, and we were just talking about this with Dak. Dak's not waiting that half a second to take a hit and throw. Kirk knew, I'm going to get hit. I got to throw this thing, duck and cover like a dude throwing a grenade. And that's what that was. That was an absolute rocket. Like, I got to get out the way because I trust my guy's going to be, you better be there because I'm throwing it. And I think that's where they're at. They just all trust you be where you need to be. And that's why some are interceptions, though, because he's doing that.
We have this feature pretty much every week, Pete, when you sit down with Kevin O'Connell. I think we could spend the entire hour, next hour, breaking down this game. But I think we kept it to 5 minutes. So let's listen to Pete Persich break down that Bills game with head coach Kevin O'Connell.
Welcome back to another edition of Film Room with Coach O'Connell, brought to you by Twin Cities Orthopedics. And Coach, if there was ever a game where we had problems coming up with 3 plays, this was it. But hopefully we got 3 that you like and you're happy to talk about.
Yeah, and I know fans will probably, it wouldn't take a wild guess to at least guess one of the 3 plays that we're going to talk about. But I wanted to start out with this one, Pete, because I think this run, this 81-yard touchdown run, really speaks a lot about where we're at in the game. We knew we wanted to run the football against this team. I kind of got off to a little bit of a choppy start, really a lot of self-inflicted wounds in the run game early on that kind of forced us to have to overcome some longer yardages. Even on that first drive, JJ and Kirk hooking up on that first 3rd down was huge. But we came back to this run, and really there was a couple times early in the game where we thought if we could just get hats on hats in the box, and then our receiver, specifically JJ here is the single, if he could get control of number 3 here dropping down the safety, that would be the impact of this whole play. So what I want Vikings fans, we're going to take a while and spend some time on the catch heard around the world, but I think it's really important we see this in a momentum time in the game. We were down 17. I call just a simple standard run for us, and we'll take a look at it from behind here in a second. But I want people to see the best receiver in football. You can see him right now. He's hunting up this block. He knows we had talked about it, how important it is, and we had a chance to get Dalvin one-on-one with the corner if we get this block. And just take a look at what Justin Jefferson does right here. Not only seals that off, but then the little bit of a strain and finish. Gets a little help from 53 there, but we chalk that up as a pancake. And then Dalvin Cook, I think he was 21.7 miles per hour. We haven't seen a Viking run that fast since Kirk's red zone scramble against the Cardinals. But let's look at it from the end zone right here. And you're going to see this thing, just standard Vikings football. We're trying to set this thing right behind CD on this edge right here. You're going to see a great combination to that backer between Garrett and Ezra. Great job on the backside to that backer, and all of a sudden you're going to see a crease here where if we get Dalvin Cook that kind of running room and then get the help, like I said, from JJ on that safety, it could be off to the races. And this was one of those.
Ezra Cleveland on that play to hit that defensive lineman and just knock him a gap over to get to the second level. And then you have 2 defenders there.
No doubt. Let's run it back one more time because I think you make a great point, because when we get some angles and leverage like this, it still requires our guys to then perform these blocks at a high level. And when you watch it, Ezra's kind of able to knock a very big human being over there, and then watch Garrett finish that thing. The power, the physicality in a moment where we had to have it. You can tell I'm a little shocked there walking down the sidelines. Expected it to go for a nice chunk there, but 81 yards. It's always nice when you can call one play on a drive and let the special teams know they're up.
And when you understand if the play gets to the safety, that's a big play. But as a defensive coordinator, to see not just your corner but also your safety completely miss, I mean that's what keeps you up at night.
Yeah,
I mean,
the one thing that's really helped us this year with our defense has been the tackling of our secondary against some really shifty, dynamic backs. Our corners showing up, so it's something we always look at. Pete, it's a great point you make right here. And then let's take a little time on this one. People probably recognize it already. 4th and 18. We did some unfortunate things to get us into this circumstance. There was really no other option right here. What we did was we just tried to have a play where Justin just wasn't in the standard spot back here where it would be a really easy double team on him. So what we did was we move him over here to the slot. And when we did that, we're going to allow him to basically run essentially a corner route that can set high. If he needs to bend it in there, he can, understanding that we just are trying to occupy that grass right there, see if we can get this corner to stay attached to Adam Thielen. And then all we're trying to do as we watch this thing is just give Kirk, the message was pretty loud and clear, and he was on board with it. We're just trying to get this ball thrown to a spot where Justin can go get this football. Maybe a 50-50 ball. Maybe we get this thing thrown up and over that corner. Kirk kind of puts a bunch of air on it just to ensure that Justin had a chance. And then when you look at it, just unbelievable ability. I happened to be standing at the time. We'll never forget it right there, and just saw that football go up. And then just saw his ability to rise and make a play on that ball was absolutely really a once-in-a-career type of play to watch from that vantage point for me. And then when you watch it from the end zone, I just want people to see, first of all, we get some great protection. We double-chip the edges. These guys were a major pass rush team. Kirk, in a gotta-have-it moment, has a clean pocket. We're able to let him sit back there, and then he's able to dial up a throw right here. And as this thing pauses, you clearly see this has a good chance to be intercepted. It really did. Where I was standing, I thought it probably was going to be intercepted, but the directive was throw the football. It's 4th and 18. This was a way of getting a one-on-one, even though we knew Buffalo would try to stop Justin Jefferson at all costs in this circumstance. But for him to get his hand on that ball and then the strength going to the ground to be able to keep it from hitting the ground and then kind of, curl that thing in there.
Well, Coach, thank you for your time, and we will see you back next week right here on Kevin O'Connell Film Room.
And Pete, we're going to go back to your comment in just a minute here. But first of all, another tough night at the office at Lambeau Field for the Green Bay Packers. We'll have that story coming up next here on Vikings Game Day Live.
You're watching Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
And welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live. Mark Rosen along with Don Mitchell, Ron Johnson, and Pete Persich. The NFC North belongs to the Vikings right now. There's no other way to say it at 8-1. The Green Bay Packers, Don, played Thursday night. They lost to the Tennessee Titans. This after they rallied and beat the Cowboys last week at home in overtime. Think if they're going to be riding a high, they're at Lambeau Field again. Tennessee just ran over them, and Derrick Henry.
Yeah, you would think they'd have some momentum. They had zero momentum. Rodgers looked bad. Their pass defense was horrible. Oh, it's a shame, right, Pete?
Oh, yeah.
Pete's
Breaks
really
my heart.
disappointed. You know, if you look at Tannehill, had 333 yards against them. I mean, that's crazy. And Traylon Burks himself, 111 of them. So, you know, I used to cover the Packers way back in the day. This is the worst I've seen them from the most I can remember.
Ron, what do they do in Green Bay right now? And it starts with A-Rod. They obviously did not re-sign Devontae Adams. They gave the money to A-Rod, and where do they go from here?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, it all falls on Aaron Rodgers. So if Aaron Rodgers is not happy and doesn't want to come back, that's going to be the key. Like, if he just wants to retire, because there's always been, like, he's going to retire, he's going to leave. But, I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that probably want his services, and I think that's Matt LaFleur's next step is, like, well, can we trade him? Or do we just cut him and see what kind of money we can recoup and try to get an early draft pick, somebody that has a top draft pick that's willing to trade for an aging Aaron Rodgers and give us their number 1, number 2 pick and go up and get Caleb Williams from USC. So, you just don't know what they are, but they do run the ball well. They do have a good tight end, but losing Devontae Adams, I don't think either side's happy. The Raiders aren't happy and the Packers aren't happy. So that, in my opinion, is a lose-lose where the Vikings-Bills was a win-win.
Pete, the Packers are now 4-7, and oh, by the way, their next game is a week from Sunday against the Eagles in Philadelphia.
The Eagles.
Dare I say I would root for the Packers on that one?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
you knock the Eagles down, and the Vikings get home field advantage.
Look out for what's good, best for the Vikings. Yeah, I think, Ron, you bring up a great point. It was the loss of Devontae Adams, and it was so interesting to see, all right, which is it, the chicken or the egg? Is it the quarterback or the receiver? And then so many times, we saw that here with Moss and Culpepper, I think, too, is that the two of them, had they stayed together, would have absolutely dominated the NFL for quite some time, but losing Devontae Adams has been a big hit.
Who would have thought before Thanksgiving we'd be looking at standings like this?
Paul Allen?
Paul Allen. Well, besides
Common?
PA.
Common?
Oh, no, not Common. Detroit's 3-6. Detroit's won more games than he ever
The
thought.
roar is restored.
They'd win all
They're
year.
not the last.
Exactly. But
We are not the worst.
And now it is. It's a matter of staying the course and just looking for home field advantage. And that's what the Vikings are dealing with right now. We're going to come back. We got a lot more to come here in Vikings Game Day Live, including a chat with CJ Hamm and, of course, previewing the Dallas Cowboys, who are favored. Why? I'm going to ask these guys when we get back here on Vikings Game Day Live.
This is Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
It's a playoff game. I mean, you got a team that's, one loss, right? And then us coming off of one. We know what this means. We know what this means in the division. We know what this means in the NFC. So it's about going up there, putting our best foot forward, and making sure that we put our best performance out there and just show the team that we are in all aspects of our game.
And welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live. The Dallas Cowboys with a lot of competition within that division, of course, with the Eagles and the New York Giants, Don Mitchell, and Dak Prescott is kind of the polarizing figure as the quarterback of this team. Seems like we're always waiting for him to take that next step to elevate his play and his team's play. Maybe it starts here today against the Vikings, which would be definitely a signature win for them.
You know, I really think that Dak has been coming along ever since he got back from that injury. I think the most recent one, he's had a couple in the past couple of years. But the one this season, I think we just saw recently that he's starting to get his footing. But you don't want him to get confident here at all at US Bank Stadium. So I think the Vikings defense has to get to him early and kind of, I don't know if you can rattle a Dak Prescott, but you really have to, because he has been getting things going the past couple weeks.
And Ron Johnson, they have a pretty well-balanced attack. I know the Vikings have some inexperience and injuries in that secondary today. When you play CJ Hamm, et cetera, you got your hands full out there today.
Yeah, and it starts with the running game, because that's the best thing about this team is Pollard or Zeke, whoever it is. That offensive line, they are bruisers, they're strong, they're physical. They play old school Emmitt Smith Dallas Cowboys football. Now the problem though is if their running game's not there, they're forcing 3rd and 7 to 11. They are the worst team in the NFL as far as turnovers. 11.6% of their third downs on 3rd and 7 to 11 have been turnovers, which is the worst by like 6%. So they are far from good if you put Dak in 3rd long, and I think that's going to be the key. You got to get to him early. You cannot let Pollard get a lane. As you see there, he does not shy away from contact. And when you talk about, like you said, those DBs being out, now you're asking Duke Shelley, you're asking Caleb Evans, he's out too, you're asking Andrew Booth Jr. to come up and make a tackle on probably one of the most physical running backs in the NFL.
And Pete, defensively, Dallas possesses one of the best players in the league in Micah Parsons, but he's been neutralized a bit because teams have been running the ball so well against the Dallas Cowboys defense, and Micah Parsons' pass rushing ability has been neutered a little bit.
Yeah, they have, and that's pretty much the big difference between the Dallas defense this year and last year. Is this year they've been able to get to the quarterback, and you bring up Micah Parsons, they move him around. He plays linebacker off the ball. He'll play defensive end in a 5-man front. He'll play defensive end in a 4-man front. It all depends on whether or not Anthony Barr is healthy. But yes, that's what teams do. He's a unique talent. He can get after the passer, but he's not big enough. He's not a Zadarius Smith-sized guy that can work on the outside, right? He can't hold up in the run on the outside. So this is what you have to avoid. You have to avoid the 3rd and longs in those situations where Dallas can substitute a defensive front and let him pin his ears back and get after the quarterback. So, yes, teams have been doing a nice job of slowing him down. They ask a ton out of Micah Parsons. They ask him, like I said, to play all over the place, trying to feature him. And that defensive front, the big thing with them is whether or not the defensive end's going to play. And the health up front with them, they're having a hard time stopping the run.
Now, getting back to that point, Don, they've given up 200 yards in consecutive games rushing the football. They're 29th in the league in rushing defense. So looks like a steady diet of Dalvin Cook today to make sure that they pound that running game again at Dallas.
Oh, absolutely. They have tons of issues when it comes to their run defense. So I think that's what you have to first and foremost go to Dalvin anyway, especially coming off the performance that he's had the past couple of weeks. I know at the beginning of the season people were saying Dalvin wasn't really doing that great, but we have shown that to be blown out of the water. So yeah, let's run it first and see and open up for JJ too, right? It's going to be fantastic.
You got to watch the injury wire. DeMarcus Lawrence, he has had 2 screws in the 1 foot. That's why he missed last year. But he has 2 bad feet and a bad knee right now. So if he's not active for this game, because he's questionable going into it, if he's not active, then the problems continue, because they've got a Sam Williams, a Dante Fowler, a lot smaller players. And I think, like to Don's point, if DeMarcus Lawrence isn't out there, man, you've got some opportunities.
Head coach Mike McCarthy talked about the rushing defense struggles, which continue for the Dallas Cowboys, which the Vikings hope continue for the Cowboys this afternoon.
When the team runs for over 200 yards, we damn damn well need to answer questions about it. So hey, we recognize that.
It's not good. You know, that's not something you want, especially being a D lineman or just a defense in general. You never want to allow that to happen. So, you know, we got a good 2 days or 3 days of practice to try to get that calm down, shut down, and that's what we're going to do.
So that the issues are there. Don, what's the point you wanted to make?
The quick point is there's also some things that you can't really put a finger on, but Michael Parsons also called out his teammates as selfish this week. And so when you start getting some infighting in a team like that and a team that's struggling and doing that, that could be really something to wedge the team
All the more
apart.
reason to put them behind the 8 ball early in this
Absolutely.
game. Because, again, the Dallas Cowboys are 8.5 favored today, and I still cannot wrap my mind around that. I don't know why, other than the fact that they're a more desperate team. You guys have any theories about that?
Yeah, they're haters. I mean, there's the thing about this. I mean, honestly.
Who's haters? The bookmakers?
Everybody on national media that wants to go against the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, they're haters, and this is why. You look at Joy Taylor. Her comment was Kirk Cousins' little legs is trying to run out there. He's 6'4". Like, how do you have little legs? That's a hater's comment. You talk about Emmanuel Acho. Oh, when I went up against DeMarco Murray in 2014, we stopped him, and then that's why I don't trust him. So, Kirk Cousins, how'd you do against my Eagles? DeMarco Murray had 2 touchdowns, and they beat you. What do you mean? 81 yards and 2 touchdowns? I'll take that any day of the week. You didn't stop him. You just slowed him down from not getting his 19th 100-yard game that season in his 18-yard. So, it's just haters. People are hating, and
I
so
love
that's
a
why
fired
Dallas
up
is gonna
Ron
do it.
Johnson.
This is the first time since 1976 that a home team with an 8-1 record and their starting quarterback is an underdog.
Yeah. I know they're only
the only stat that I saw that could possibly explain some of this is Cousins' 2-8 record against the Cowboys.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and it's
not to suggest Dallas can't win this football game. Of course they can, but it doesn't make a lot of sense at the outset that the Vikings are point underdog. But anyway, that's up to the
men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
Okay.
They're haters.
You can't put a percentage on heart.
Jay-Z
either,
said it
right?
best.
That's right. Meanwhile, there is a battle for the number 1 seed. We are having that discussion before Thanksgiving. The Eagles, they're playing, who they got, the Commanders? There's a lot going on in the NFC right now. The Vikings-Eagles game 2, so let's take a look at the Eagles-Colts today. That's right. Let's look at the standings for the battle for the number 1 seed right now. You just mentioned, Pete, a good point. Green Bay plays in Philadelphia next week. All of a sudden, the Vikings could be Packer fans because you look to get that first round bye.
You do, and I don't think the bye. I think that's what's changed from when I played and coached until now. Is you just want to get in. I think that's really the thing because teams can win on the road in the playoffs, and you want to be playing your best football and be healthy when you get into the playoffs. But you look at the Eagles' next 4 games. The Colts, the Colts and Packers, whatever, but they got to face the Titans and the Giants, and so the health of that team is gonna be there. It's going to be, and again, momentum, because they do something. Their offense is just different, a little bit different than everybody else in the league because of the talent that they have. And then eventually teams are going to figure you out and make things a little bit more difficult.
Those 2 teams are running teams. Don't forget about December 18th. The Bears have figured out how to run the ball with Justin Fields. So the Bears can beat the Eagles as well. Like with Justin Fields, the way he's playing.
The Eagles' defense.
And I'm pretty sure Vikings fans don't mind being Bears fans that night.
No,
either.
the Vikings sell the Bears down the road in Chicago, as we know, after the first of the year as well. Well, coming up next, Tatum Everett sits down with CJ Hamm to discuss his role with the Minnesota Vikings and more on the Cowboys-Vikings rivalry, which goes back to, I don't want to talk about it. You know what? that. He's still pushed up, Drew Pearson.
Welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
Yeah, the tailgating lots are just starting to fill up hours before game time, and why not? They're here to see the 8-1 Vikings take on the Dallas Cowboys here this afternoon at US Bank Stadium. We're waiting a while to get back home. No snowstorm here. Beautiful, really late November weather here in the Twin Cities for the NFC showdown against those Dallas Cowboys. Tatum Everett is not live with us right now. It's a little early for that, but she did have a chance to sit down with CJ Hamm, who's done a lot for the Minnesota Vikings, both on and off the field in his time here.
In Sunday's game, there were several moments where Buffalo had a win percentage probability of over 95%. How were you guys able to come back from that?
Yeah, that was just a crazy game in general. Every single day I'm walking outside and people are telling me, man, that was the greatest game I ever watched in my life. And to go to your point where it was so many ups and downs, we really just stayed the course.
Allen steps up and throws an interception. Patrick Peterson, and in this heavyweight bout, the Vikings with the knockout blow. The Vikings win the game of the year.
And that's what it's all about. This whole season has been a lot of fun, and the people here, we got the right people here.
That's what everyone keeps saying. They're having fun with this particular team. Why is that?
Because we've bought in, it's our team, our way, our process, and we've completely bought into that. And the coaches have done a great job of, making sure that we feel comfortable, that nothing is too big, nothing's too small. And as a team, we've truly bought into that, and we've been able to, have some success. And it hasn't been easy, but we're finding ways to get things done, and that says a lot about the people in the locker room.
Thielen in motion, they fake the jet, give it to CJ, and he's in the end zone! Touchdown! Vikings! That is CJ Hamm's first rushing touchdown since 2017 against the Steelers.
One of those scores came from you, your first rushing touchdown in 5 seasons. What was it like to punch it in for the team in a critical time?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome to have my number called in that moment. Like you said, first rushing one since Pittsburgh. I think that was game number 2 of 2017. So it felt really good. It felt really good to get in the end zone, and especially at a time where we're trying to make that comeback. Dalvin had ripped one off. I scored, and it was just a good momentum building play for our team.
How do you stay ready when maybe you're not seeing as many offensive snaps as you're accustomed to?
Whenever my number's called, just be ready to go. That's always been my MO, is to do whatever I can to help the team when the team needs. And if that's me playing 30 snaps, that's me playing 1 snap. I'm gonna make that 1 snap the best snap I got. And being a part of the special teams unit has been amazing. We have some dogs out there, so just being a part of them. Making sure I'm totally locked in on special teams and totally ready to perform when my number's called. Over
the summer, you were voted as one of the captains. What was that moment like for you? Knowing all the change that went on in the front office, what was that like?
It means a lot to be voted the captain again for a second year with a whole new staff. It truly does mean a lot. It's not something that I asked for or anything like that, but I'm gonna try to be the same person no matter what, no matter who's in the room, no matter who I'm talking to. I'm trying to be the same person, and so to have that type of respect from my teammates is really cool.
That game was obviously extra in length, extra in exhaustion. You come back from a big high, a celebration like that. How do you decompress and get ready for the Cowboys?
That's what we have to do. It was an unbelievable game, OT, high emotions, all those things play a factor. But then you come in Monday morning, you watch the film, and then that's it. As professional athletes, we have to get ready to play. And, we know we have a good team coming in this week with the Cowboys. It's a national televised game, all these different things. So we have to snap out of it real quick. And, what we did was great, but now we have to go do it again.
How important is this stretch?
It's extremely important. I mean, just being at home, obviously playing in front of the best fans in the NFL. I'd say it's super important, and we're going to need all the fans' help in these next handful of games to help us get some W's.
And back with our crew here at US Bank and Dawn, I remember I ran into Jerome Felton this summer, who's now in law school, by the way. He blocked for Adrian Peterson for much of his career. You look at a guy like CJ Hamm, think of what he does on the field, but you also think about what he does off the field. And you understand that he's got a great future no matter what he ends up doing and what an impact he makes in that locker room.
You know, he's one of the best ambassadors for the game, and especially so for the Vikings. But when you talk about that, he just seems to do everything right. And that's what they say, whether he's in meetings or whether he's doing a community event or whether he's giving his heart, he's just there 100% present, but he's always doing things the right way. And when you have guys like that, that just kind of permeates through a locker room as well, especially when he shows up at practice, he's at his meetings, he goes and he does so much. And of course, I mean, we joke around with Adam Thielen and with CJ, like, oh, did you know that he was from Duluth? Oh, did you know that he's from Detroit Lakes? But it's great to have, someone that's from Minnesota that can work hard, get something done, and then give back.
I don't want to hear from you, Ron Johnson, about this Drew Pearson catch again. You weren't even born. This sticks in my craw, like a lot of Viking fans of a certain age, going back to the Vikings-Dallas history. And there's been some memorable pros and cons. The worst was this at Met Stadium when Drew Pearson pushed off on Nate Wright, two-handed in the back. Paul Krause is pointing it out, going, "Look what he did!" Dallas, then the whiskey bottle came out of the stands, hit Armin Terzi. It's just. And it wasn't even for the chance to go to the Super Bowl. That was a divisional playoff game. Ron?
Oh, I thought you wanted to hear from Pete. He said you want to hear from me, so I thought.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, I have heard about this, and the only reason I've heard about this is because Mel Blount. So I know the Steelers and the Vikings with Super Bowls, and then Dallas and the Vikings. So Mel Blount, my dad, they would talk about this was kind of the start. Unfortunately, sorry, Vikings fans, this is the start of the Steelers, like, when you think about their early 4 Super Bowls in the 70s. And so, and I was well-versed in a lot of receivers back then, Drew Pearson, Lynn Swann. And I will say this, his hands were on him. Whether he pushed him or not, that's always going to be the question. But I know Vikings fans say he pushed him down. Paul Krause said it. I'll probably see Paul Krause, at some point this next month. So I had to ask him because he brings that up to him because he knows my dad and those guys bring those stories up. And but my dad had a similar one with the Houston Oilers. Corner catching the corner in the end zone. Billy White Shoes Johnson doesn't catch it. Steelers go to the Super Bowl. So I think it's about where you play, who's the players involved, And
that's how the term Hail Mary came about, from that play. Pete Burson's got a much better outcome in 1998. I was at that game, unforgettable game in Dallas. Randy Moss's rookie season when he just torched the Cowboys on that afternoon.
And I think that game kind of defined to the NFL what Randy was all about. He had 3 catches in this game, and each one of them were for touchdowns. So it doesn't matter if you limit. It's not about limiting his receptions. It's about not letting him catch the ball, period. So I remember this game. I remember blocking Herschel Walker on a punt return and asking him what the hell he was doing on the field for special teams. And he's like, "Man, I'm just trying to get a check, just trying to make my way." But this was an incredible game. This was, I think, in that season, a great, just a microcosm of how that season went and
that
what Randy
game and
did
the
that
Packard
game.
Monday night game were the two big games for Randy Moss.
That game and that Monday night game or Sunday night game. It was a Monday night game in Green Bay when they had that long home winning streak.
Right.
Those two were probably my favorites of that season.
And of course, 2009, Brett Favre comes to town. They play the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. Pretty evenly matched game, and the Vikings just destroyed them here at the Metrodome.
I absolutely love this game, and I love Sidney Rice. I know that that's the kind of a guy that you just kind of miss sometimes when you talk about all the big names in Vikings history. But I think he won an ESPY that year for that catch, if I was right or not. But of course, they went on to the NFC Championship game in New Orleans. We all know what happened after that. But also, and I know that Ben's not here today, but there was a huge Jared Allen fumble and Ben Lieber recovery in that game too. So I loved this game. The dome was loud. It was rocking, and just
34-3.
Yeah, Ray Edwards had
Rice,
2 or 3 sacks. I mean, he went up against an offensive tackle. It just came back from injury from Dallas. The noise, like you said, was phenomenal, and that's the thing. Like you look at Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, and you look back at Sidney Rice and Brett Favre, and Sidney Rice was a good receiver until Favre got here and said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to throw you the ball.
Yeah.
Just catch it, get open. And Rice had that unbelievable year, and he never replicated that again. Yeah. He went to Seattle, got paid, and just never, so it's that lightning in a bottle effect when you have with the quarterback and receivers.
Sidney Rice
that's amazing
and Percy
to see.
Harvin.
Yeah.
That was quite a year, yeah. Then, we got the Fox Bet coming up. We're going to talk about 3 games today. We're still trying to win some of Terry Bradshaw's money. Is he still giving that stuff out? But there's 3 games. Let's talk about them. The Rams and the Saints. Both teams struggling. The Super Bowl champs, Ron Johnson, having some issues. Matthew Stafford is supposed to be coming back from his concussion today, though.
Yeah, the Rams, there's a thing, too, and I'm not saying Kevin O'Connell was the guy, but the guy talking to the quarterback usually is really important, and Kevin O'Connell clearly had Matthew Stafford under, everything control last year. It just seems like early on in the season, even when he was healthy, he just didn't have it. People were figuring out Cooper Kupp. Looks like Cooper Kupp is out, so there's a lot of things with this team, or he's, injured, but a lot of things with this team is just not where it is. The Saints defensively are really good. They still have a good running game. I know there's quarterback questions, and Jameis Winston feels disrespected because he lost his job with injury, but I'm going to go with the Saints in this one.
Lions and the Giants, Don Mitchell. This is an interesting game because the Giants feel like they can still steal this division.
I have to just say Saquon Barkley. It's like every single time this guy plays, I have to go with him. So I have Giants by 7 because he had 103 yards per game. That's what he's averaging. So you got to go with the guy with the hot hand.
But, Pete, you think the Lions could give him a pretty good tussle today?
I think they can because they have the Giants have not faced a top 10 passing offense yet. The closest they came was against Seattle in 13, and they gave up the season-high 23 points against them. So don't be surprised if the Lions keep it close.
Thanksgiving always means football, but this Thursday is going to mean a little bit different because the Vikings are playing here for the first time ever Thanksgiving night against the New England Patriots. Is that going to affect the way you plan your day? A lot of fans looking forward to coming into US Bank Stadium that night. And here we'll talk about what Justin Fields has to say about his role as the Chicago Bears are trying to find themselves. Stay with us. We're going to talk more about that and the Dallas Cowboys right here in Vikings Game Day Live.
You're watching Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
As we take a look at the field here at US Bank Stadium, it's been a while since the Vikings have been home, so it's their opportunity to have Salute to Service Day here at US Bank, honoring our veterans in particular, and they're obviously going through the rehearsal right now before the 3:30 kickoff this afternoon. Should be quite a spectacle, to say the least. Mark Rosen back with Don Mitchell, Ron Johnson, and Pete Vercich. And let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. And Ron, as a wide receiver, you mentioned earlier kind of the Vikings may have their hands full with CJ Hamm. What kind of impact did he make on this game today, given the inexperience in the defensive backfield for the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Peterson is going to be the key if he, decides to stay where CeeDee Lamb goes. But CeeDee Lamb plays in the slot. He motions a little bit, too, when they go into the bunch sets. So they want to create mismatches with him. And when you look at his hands, his ability to turn his body and make ridiculous catches, I think he had one here last year or whatever, 2 years ago. I don't remember when it was. But he's a problem. I mean, he was in the same draft class with Justin Jefferson. I think he's going to go down as one of the best receiving draft class in the NFL history. But yeah, you have to know where CD's at. Like he's a sneaky, like the Packers game, he kind of got loose, and it is going to be like if Duke Shelley's on him or if Andrew Booth, eyes are going to be on that matchup. Like how do they match up against CeeDee Lamb?
They're going to try to have a balanced attack as well, much the way the Vikings are with their running attack. But Pete, you had a chance to kind of break down, and we're going to go to the film room right now for Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and how the Vikings try to contain those two guys this afternoon.
Welcome back to another edition of Vikings Film Room, brought to you by the Vikings Entertainment Network. I'm your host, Pete Vercich. Now, whenever I think of the Dallas Cowboys, I think of two people in particular, Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Now, despite the Cowboys stubbing their toe against the Green Bay Packers, this is still a formidable duo. Let's do a deep dive on Dak and figure out what we have to do to stop him. All right, this Dallas Cowboy offense, it's all about these two, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. And one of the things about CeeDee Lamb that we'll notice is the problems that he causes really in the middle of the field. And I start with that because of what this danger to the middle of the field actually does for him on this route. What you're going to see, a couple extra tight ends for protection, but receivers are in tight, right? They're in tight to do what? Either cross over in the middle of the field, work the middle, but then eventually open up the sidelines and attack outside. So on this play, again, play action, that's been key, and we're going to see that throughout these big plays of CeeDee Lamb, but you get the play fake. But if you watch CeeDee Lamb, he works himself to the middle of the field, and at this point, you don't know where he's going to go. Is he going to go across the middle and try to get in behind these linebackers? But you have a safety over here looking him up. But what he does to Jair Alexander, who I think is guessing, he's guessing the dig. He's going to put a move on him and work to the corner, and this move is a thing of beauty. Steps inside, spins out, he's wide open, catches it at about the 12. No one's there to make the tackle. CeeDee Lamb in space is a very dangerous man. So whenever the Cowboys line up, you've got to find CeeDee Lamb. In this case, he's in the slot, all right? So they move him around quite a bit, but he's very, very dangerous in the slot. And why is that? Because he's a tall body, can attack the middle of the field. But watch the play fake again. This is all about play fake, trying to get that underneath coverage to settle down. And in this case right here, this is exactly what Dallas wants. They run the go route with the receiver down here to do what? To clear out this area. We've seen this on film room week after week. They want to clear a zone, and they want to get this guy all the way across. You see the nickel defender, he's on that outside shoulder. The safety's way too deep to get himself over here. Opens up this huge area. Dak Prescott, because of the play fake, has time, he has space, and when you give him time and space, he can just deliver this in stride. Huge play for the Dallas offense. All right, like we said earlier, you got to see where CeeDee Lamb is. This time he's in the slot. And if you want to play single high safety against him, he's pretty good. But watch the details of this route. Watch as he comes off the football. He doesn't run just straight up the field and make a move to the middle. He knows he's got the outside shoulder. He's going to widen himself out. Right here, watch that curve. He widens himself out to force this DB to get across his face and then turn, opening up this area in the middle of the field. And at the same time, great protection for Dak. He's got a pocket. He knows exactly where he's going to go with the football. But CeeDee Lamb, such a big target, so tall, so athletic in the middle of the field, it is very difficult to cover him with single high safety. So we're playing the game. Where's CeeDee? Well, this time they put him in the backfield. Now everybody in the stadium knows in the red zone, shotgun, CeeDee Lamb in the backfield, this guy's going to get the football, right? Packers should be able to stop him, no problem. Watch the outside defenders. They're blitzing, but Dallas is going to turn this guy free, CeeDee Lamb, out into the flat. There's the defender that needs to cover him, but watch this. When he catches his football, 2 Packer defenders there. Whenever you have a receiver or any offensive player that can beat not just 1, but 2 defenders in space, that keeps the defensive coordinator up at night. He rolls out of this tackle, 2 guys overrun it, gets in for the touchdown. CeeDee Lamb in space is an absolute nightmare.
Great stuff as always, Pete Bursis. We look at the Vikings' next 4 games, and let's look at the Patriots here on Thanksgiving night. The Patriots, by the way, are hosting the New York Jets today, a team that, for the once, they're actually chasing the Jets as opposed to the other way around, Pete Bursis.
Yeah, and one thing, and also looking forward, which we don't like to do, but we can as long as we're not coaching, that the Patriots and the Jets, they're playing today. They may not score 20 points between the 2 of them. It's 2 very, very good defenses. The Lions, we'll see. We'll see if if we go to Detroit and there are U-Hauls in the parking lot and the guys are ready to go home for the season. The Colts right now, they're still on a high from a new head coach, but 4 weeks from now we'll see how they look. But a lot of good defenses coming up. A good defense that we're going to see today. The Patriots and the Jets. The Jets are a very, very athletic team. And I think that's going to be a very interesting matchup.
That's why we have such a week-to-week craziness, Don Mitchell, in this business, because trying to predict them and telling Viking fans, like they keep saying, when are we going to have an easy one? They're not.
None of them are easy.
The first one has been the most one-sided game the Vikings have had all season, I think.
When I look at those 4 games, the Jets are the ones that scare me the most.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the Patriots will show what they're made of if they beat the Jets today. I don't know if that's going to happen. They've got their DT is banged up, their punter is out. They're both on injured reserve, so they're kind of having their own mess. And I think Matt Patricia's having a hard time play calling. But when you look at the Jets, I think that they're just strong. I think they're the toughest one of that 4 that we have to really look out for.
Well, we'll talk more about that game as the Vikings get ready to play on Thanksgiving night here at U.S. Bank against those New England Patriots. We're also going to mic up Harrison Phillips, who's always entertaining Vikings defensive lineman, right after this. Stay with us here on Vikings Game Day Live.
This is Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
Mark Rosen back with Don Mitchell, Ron Johnson, and Pete Bursich getting ready for the Vikings and the Cowboys at 3:30 this afternoon. One of the best offseason acquisitions the Vikings made was acquiring and signing Harrison Phillips, who was with Buffalo a year ago. Well, last week he returned, and we mic'd him up.
Come on. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I feel better in purple. Let's go. Hey, it's simple. All you got all the time. All you got all the time. D-line on 3. 1, 2, 3. D-line. Come on, boy. Hey, everything we done got in our life, we got with these two things right here. With your hands. Nobody put food on your plate for you. You hear me? In this game, you don't get what you want. You get who you are. We need some winners. Need some dogs. I'm surrounded by my snipers. Let's go. Vikings on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Got the 7-1 Minnesota Vikings and the 6-2 Buffalo Bills.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you all for your service. Thank you. We deferred? We on? We up. Get back on track. Get back on track. Hey! Oh! Okay. Let's go, JJ! Yeah! Let's go, dog!
Kirk fade, end zone, and it is caught! Touchdown!
Yes! 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 You know, all you can do is a little bit more. Do your job and a little bit more. Ooh, getting close. What up, dog? What's up? How you doing, man? Bull, hell of a job with CFL. Oh my God. Hey, what do you say, hey? Go get 7 for us. Come on, baby.
Hand off Dalvin, room to the left side. And it's loose! Touchdown!
Yes! Dalvin! Let's go! Beautiful! Beautiful!
Keeps it alive. Josh Allen into the end zone, and it's picked by Peterson. Patrick Peterson has some room. The veteran down the sideline and back to the 34. Vikings defense bends and bends, but doesn't break.
Pat, thank you. Thank you, dog. Thank you, dog. Hey, hey, you dog. Gold jacket. Kurt Cousins! Love that, Kurt. Kurt Cousins style.
Feeling in motion, they take the jet, give it to CJ, and he's in the end zone! Touchdown! Vikings!
Yes, CJ!
Kirk Cousins back to throw on 4th and 18. He's given time. He wants Jefferson. Climbs the ladder. Oh, my goodness! Justin Jefferson pulled it in!
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Come on, oh.
Here it is. First down from the goal strike for the Bills. He didn't get out of there!
He didn't get out.
He did not get out! That's a safety! Give it to us!
He signaled the touchdown.
Through the middle, they signal touchdown.
Still gotta go win the game. Still gotta go win the game.
Allen back to pass in the pocket to the end zone. Yes! It is stepped by Patrick Peterson! And he slides down! And the Minnesota Vikings
Let's go. For the game.
Good to see you, brother. Stay healthy now.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Hey, man.
Yeah.
I'm a football player, man.
I appreciate you,
I'm a
bro.
football player. Stay healthy. Stay healthy.
Wow, what a game to have Harrison Phillips mic'd up. And Don Mitchell, you were just saying on that key play where Josh Allen fumbled the snap, Harrison Phillips played a big role in that play.
He did, because he knows that team so well, but he also did some sort of stunt. He really got them to bite on that, and that really kind of created confusion. So he just should get a lot of props for what went down there, too. Of course, EK fell on it, and we all know what happened, but Harrison Phillips played a big role.
I don't think a lot of people realize the kind of leadership role he's taken, Pete, versus on this team, on this defense.
I think you look at this defense this year as opposed to a year ago when we were having so many problems at the end of the first half, at the end of the second half of giving up points. But it's the attitude, and that's, I think, one of the most underrated things about Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. The guys that he's bringing in, they all have this attitude. Zadarius Smith brings an attitude. Jonathan Bullard, Jordan Hicks, and then Harrison Phillips. Just listening to him talk, right, and just you got to do your job, but a little bit more. That's been the mantra for the Cowboys all week is, hey, do your job, because guys are trying to go out of body and do too much. His attitude is contagious, and defensively we're seeing the results.
And, Ronnie, just get a glimpse of the grunting and the pushing and the shoving, just what goes on every single play in the trenches.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they do it. I mean, that's why as a receiver, that's why you respect your offense. Yeah, no, I'm not going in there. That's why you respect your offensive linemen. That's why you're so grateful for what they do. Because, I mean, somebody brought this up about concussions and offensive linemen. Receivers, DBs, quarterbacks, you can kind of get away because you're not getting hit every play. Offensive linemen and defensive linemen hit every single play, and so it is amazing what they put their bodies through week in and week out. And oftentimes they don't get the mic'd up. They don't get the celebration. They want to hear from the quarterback. They want to hear from the talkative receivers, the DBs with swagger. So it was good to see a guy like Harrison Phillips get his shot this weekend.
Entertaining guy, wonderful guy in the community. Lots going on. A guy you'd like to have Thanksgiving dinner with. Maybe not. Maybe
not if you want to eat.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Sink or sail coming up. We have a lot to talk about as we get ready for kickoff. We'll get the thoughts of our crew here.
Presented by Luther
Right here.
Auto. Welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live, presented by Luther Auto and Mystic Lake.
And welcome back to Vikings Game Day Live. It's time for Sink or Sail, our favorite. Dawn, you have bragging rights this week. Go on, go ahead. You said Justin Jefferson was going to blow up last week.
I did. I was the only one. Everyone said, no, it's going to be, Dalvin Cook's game, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I just feel like JJ's going to have a good game. And I was like, nah.
Well,
I wish I could clip that off.
No, the PA said Adam Thielen's going to have that kind of game today. So we'll see but he's not involved in this, so we don't really care. The Cowboys and Vikings will combine for more than 48 points. The current line's at 48.5. They scored combo 63 last week. I'm going to sail that, baby. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. You guys?
Sinking it. I think it's going to be just under.
Just under?
Yeah.
All right. Ron,
I think he's sinking it too.
He's sinking it?
Yeah, I'm just trying to do the math. I'm thinking like 27-17, so I was trying to do the math in my head what that was.
Did you go to the University of Minnesota?
That's what I have.
You went to the U of M. You took,
took marketing. You got money. Numbers don't matter in marketing. It's just buy.
You've got two teams here that Dallas needs to run the football.
Right.
We should be able to run the football. And the one thing that's really been killing Dallas is time of possession. They're one of the worst in the league at time of possession. I think they're going to try to slow things down. They have Zeke Elliott back. They're going to run the football a little bit more. I just think because of all that, we'll hit the under.
Kirk Cousins will have back-to-back 300-yard passing games. He had his first one last week. I'm going to sink it because I think they're just going to give the ball a steady diet of Dalvin Cook. I don't think he's going to have to throw the ball. I hope he doesn't have to throw the ball that many times.
Absolutely.
I think we're all unanimous on that one.
I'm sinking it because if he gets to 300, we should win. So that way, at least we get the win if I'm wrong.
Okay,
right?
I got you.
I'm hedging my bet right here.
Right.
Well, Hunter, they've only given up 181 yards per game in the air, so they're the third best pass defense when you look at what Micah Parsons does. I'd rather take Micah Parsons out the game, run, and get him tired. Run right at him.
Cowboys do give up the deep ball, though.
Yeah, they do. Okay, the next one, Tony Pollard is a better running back option than Zeke Elliott today. What do you think?
Ooh.
Boy, it's a tough one.
Today, I would say sail it only because of the question of the knee.
Right.
With Zeke. That's the only reason why.
I think Pollard's a better option as well, but that's...
Little asterisk.
Today. Don't mark on the map.
Today.
Correct. The Vikings will sack quarterback Dak Prescott 3 times. He has not been sacked more than twice in a game this year. I think I can harass him. Sacking him more than 3, I'm going to sink that.
I'm just thinking it because he runs well. Like and he gets out of the pocket. They do a lot of stuff to get because we see his pregame hips workout, so you're going to see that today. But he does a good job of rolling out to his left, twerking his hips, and then throwing the ball. So he knows, hey, if it's not there, it's a pass-run option. If it's not there, I'm running the ball.
I'm only going to sink it because they're going to run the ball today.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, Dallas will be. The Cowboys will make the playoffs. I'm going to sail that. Because I want to, they make the playoffs and they lose in the playoffs. That's normally what happens.
Yeah, they have a tough schedule coming up, but I still think they'll get in there.
Yeah. The NFC, just when you look at 7 teams being able to get in, I think they'll get in there.
Yeah, and it all depends too on if the Lions lose today, then it's going to be tough for them. But I think they got it.
Justin Jefferson will hit the 2,000 receiving yards. ESPN has projected him just over 2,000. He's currently at 1,060. He's got, 4,000 receiving yards in 42 games. I got to believe he's going to get there. I just think he's just so good. They're going to keep giving him the football.
I'm sailing it only because I think I want him to. How's that? I'm just gonna go with the positive.
All right.
Right?
I mean, when you look at the defenses they're playing, the Patriots, the Jets, it's going to be tough. You got Sauce Gardner versus Justin Jefferson. Everybody's going to be watching that one. Yeah. Shout out to Detroit Martin Luther King because he's from my high school. But when you think about this, I got to sail it just because I want to see it happen. 2,002 yards is what he's on pace, 117 yards a game right now. I think he has another 200-yard game coming up at some point. And so I think that's really going to give him that cushion to if he has a 80-yard game at some point.
I'm sticking with what I said months ago, and that's if Cousins keeps throwing him the 50-50 balls, he'll get there.
Final thoughts in 10 seconds, Pete. What do you like today?
Oh, my God. Like I said, both teams you think on paper should be running the football for different reasons. So I expect this game to slow down or be slower than normal. And with Dallas, they've caught a lot of heat. A lot of guys saying, do your job, the mistakes, the turnovers. I look for them to play a much tighter football game. So,
all right, a reminder, we've got the Bears and the Falcons coming up at noon right here on Fox 9. Don Mitchell, Ron Johnson, Pete Bursich, I'm Mark Rosen. Enjoy the afternoon.